This is Jim DeFelice, and you are watching Break It Down Show.
Hell yeah. We are at the Hilton near the airport. We're having beers. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, and we're in Culver City.
Culver City. Pitching stories.
Pitching stuff, and but actually, the highlight of the trip for me, I've been here a week, and the highlight of the trip actually is seeing people.
Oh man!
And the last time I saw you, we were in the flesh.
Yeah.
I think we were up in Sacramento.
We sure were.
We were talking about horses. We were talking about West Like Lightning, I think. We were talking about the Pony Express, and we're kind of talking about, or one of the things that I'm trying to talk about is horses as well. These horses were in Afghanistan. A little bit different job than Pony Express.
Yeah, it is a different job than the Pony Express, but the Pony Express is interesting because it was 18 months of time, right? That was it. So, and then all of a sudden the story just stuck with us for 150 years. This is the story of an ODA, Green Berets, that dropped in just post 9/11. And look, what people don't understand is when you get to somewhere, everything's not there, right? You have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, they didn't even have horses. They didn't know that they were going to be riding horses. And what happened, basically what happens is let me plug the book first and say this is called Lightning, and it just came out, just available in all your big bookstores and online, and we're actually going to have we have a website up, by the time this airs, we'll have a website up, so if you can't find it in the store, you can order through the bookstore, please check out our website. But so after 9/11, America decided, hey, we got to do something about Osama bin Laden and the Taliban in Kentucky. So what we decided to do was kick Al Qaeda and the Taliban out and let the indigenous people of Afghanistan take their country back. There was a movement kind of coalesced around the Northern Alliance, and these guys went in. They had a very, very minimal idea of what they faced, who they were going to work with, and they certainly didn't know that they were going to be riding horses and using 19th century combat tactics along with 21st century combat equipment and tactics. But they managed it, and that's really the story.
Green Berets are hyper talented. They persevere. I always say, like, if you want to understand what a Green Beret is, you give them $13, have them leave Arizona with 1,000 pounds of gear and say, we'll see you in Cuba, and then they'll beat you there, and they'll be drinking rum when you get there. I mean,
and they'll have more than $13.
Exactly, yeah, and a girlfriend. Sorry, wives.
And they'll maybe two. They will. The other thing that they're really they're very multi-talented, but they're also very good. They're kind of diplomats in a way, and you can see that. We talked a little bit about that in sort of like. They're also, kind of more prosaically, but just as important. They are, they're teachers, and if you look at what's happening right now in Ukraine, a lot of those tactics, a lot of what's being done, and not to take anything all away from the great people, the men and women of Ukraine and the military forces there, but some of the tactics that are being applied there are right out of the SF, out of their handbooks, really. And I know that a lot of Green Berets and others work very hard to kind of help the Ukrainian army and military kind of build up and improve over the last 20 years and it's paid off.
When I was going into the SF thing, because of how multi-talented they are, with these guys boned up on Xenophon and cavalry arts and horseback riding is like at the fair, okay, you're adorable, you're going in a circle, but this is actual, like, people don't understand how rugged Afghanistan is. So to do this is a significant skill that you have to
They had no clue. They, as a matter of fact, out of the guys, okay, an ODA, people who probably not, just a little bit of background. There's 12 men in an ODA, and out of the 12 guys, none of them, the one person who had ridden a horse, actually was very good at riding horses, and that would happen to be their captain, Mark Nutsch. I think one or two other members of the ODA had ridden horses, very possibly on the level of carnival rides. It is probably one guy who could actually know more sports. But they had no idea. They went in. They were going to hook up with General Johnston, who they had very, very little intelligence on. They thought he was a really old man, quasi-senile with all these health problems. And that there would be somebody from the agency. We don't really name the agency in the book. I don't think it's too hard to figure out. A lot of the agency members have been putting out their own books, so you can kind of figure out who they were and what they were doing. We're not going to name them. That was kind of artificial. So they had absolutely no clue about what they were going in. They come in at night. As it happens, the helicopter pilot from the 160th brings them in. Happens to be a good friend of mine, Al back. Brings them, across an incredible journey across these mountains, past defenses and everything, and they land in a dust storm, and all of a sudden, out of the sandy mist come these horsemen. And it probably looked like something out of the apocalypse. And, as we explain in the book, Mark had to kind of figure out how to ride on these horses, which were short and about 500 times more cantankerous than your basic, standard bred or whatever horse in America you're familiar with. And the saddles were, if I said that they were as hard as plywood, I would actually be exaggerating how soft they were. Those were very hard. Horses would as soon bite them as they followed. But somehow they figured it out, and over the next, literally, 6 weeks, really, within 6 weeks, a little bit longer, they had secured not only northern Afghanistan, but really all of the places in Afghanistan. Sent Osama bin Laden, but we know that he ended up in Pakistan. And their mission was complete before the end of the year. So it's just probably the most remarkable guerrilla operation, I think, in history. Certainly one of the best.
The most remarkable guerrilla operation in history with a bunch of untrained horseback riders riding on horses that are completely foreign to how we approach horseback riding. The little tiny guys that look, we love to carry stuff, and it's 10,000 feet in the air. Everything is. How does it go for them?
Absolutely, and the horses were pretty tough, and you have to also give the Green Berets a lot of credit. They were able to basically deal with not a lot of luxuries out in the field. At the same time, they had really, really high tech equipment. They're able to vector in. They're able to bring in Air Force, Navy, Marine pilots to precision bomb Taliban positions and coordinate the bombing with these horse chargers. In a lot of cases, the way that the horses had to be employed to move so they could move over kind of large distances in the mountains. And in most, though not all of the cases, when they did when they were in battle, the horsemen would actually dismount and then we'd have a battle. But there are scenes in 12 Strong which is somewhat, I mean, it's a Hollywood version, kind of what they did. There's some scenes there of horses charging the tanks and stuff. It's Hollywood, but it's it's accurate enough. I'll tell you.
When you talk about the possibleness of this, again, let's go back to the Pony Express. Like, these are young men, really kids in our mind, but back then probably young men who are riding through snowstorms when there's no road, there's no markers, they're just riding in the general direction. Very, very similar in terms of like what's available and what they know about what their job is. If that's a bag of mail, they've got to ride a certain distance, and then maybe double that distance again. This is really, you said, like, this is ancient forms of fighting. And then how did the Taliban respond to these Green Berets bearing down on horses?
Well, first of all, I think even the youngest guy in the ODA was a couple of years older than the kind of late teens, early 20s people who made up most of the riders in the Pony Express. To become a Green Beret, they don't just pick guys up off the street there. They've already proven themselves in other areas of the army. And calling the kind of chief warrant officer, kind of second command of the unit, the young man, he would take that as a very, very good compliment. And of course, he was not here to punch me in the shoulder when I say that he's not all that job. The Taliban, kind of crazy. They didn't at first. They really didn't understand what they were up against. They knew that they had a really wily enemy in Ghost. And the rules of engagement in Afghanistan, certainly at the time, were kind of crazy. Ghost before battle would often call them up. Call up the Taliban leader and say, "Hey, we're going to bomb the crap out of you. You can surrender if you want, but if you don't surrender, we're coming after you." And the first time or second time, the first few times he did that, they just kind of laughed. And then, afterwards, shortly afterwards, they saw that he wasn't. A lot of certainly in the early engagements that we write about in the book, and the engagements before our guys got there, he would have the tribesmen kind of from the different areas would basically switch sides depending on a whole bunch of factors, whether they're their friends or who made promises or what the local politics were, and it was not unheard of. It often happened that they would switch sides, and at least once or twice it was talked about in the book. One of the units that had allegedly been allied with the Taliban, as Dostum approached, they changed sides. They came on Dostum's side. Dostum is, unfortunately, the Western media kind of calls him a warlord. Dostum's really, I'm not saying he's a kindergarten teacher. He's a really tough guy, but he's a military genius, certainly for Afghanistan. And he and Mark Nutsch, who's the captain of the ODA 595, they really kind of formed a really good partnership. They really, really worked together very strongly. And I think that partnership, what Mark was able to accomplish with Dostum and with the other Afghan leaders there, really led to that victory. Mark, I can tell you from things not even connected with the book, Mark is relentless when he's on something. I mean, whether it's finding a parking space or winning a war, you want him on your side.
Yeah. It's not all roses that we do in combat. There's all kinds of variables.
I don't think there were any roses.
I
mean,
know
all sorts of stuff was constantly going wrong. Absolutely. Absolutely. As you well know, you well know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some pomegranates, maybe there's some heather in the mountains, but yeah, there's definitely
They didn't see pomegranates, they didn't see heather. They said, though, I mean, there wasn't a lot of food, but they came to like the cooking. So, and then there's one story, well, I'll leave it for readers to find it in the book. It's about a lot of potatoes. Potatoes, I think there was the vodka down in that section. We did leave a few things out. There was also a lot of vodka involved. So we'll see how deeply people do the book.
Yeah. Here's the book right here. It's called Swords of Lightning, and you can see the link at the bottom of the page right there, and you can get that book. It's available on Amazon. One of the things I know about SF guys, we kind of alluded to it, is sometimes there's stuff that happens that can't make it. What percentage of the stories where you're like, that's not going in the book?
Well,
not that anything illegal.
There was something. Okay, so I mean, obviously, we're not going to put anything that's classified. That's off. I don't think they didn't tell me anything that was classified, and I have obviously had a lot of exposure to different things related to Afghanistan, basically back from even before they went over there. And I had originally, when the war started, I was contracted by publishing on the conflict. And these guys that did such a great job and ended so fast that we ended up not doing that book. But anyway, we were very, very, very careful about not putting classified stuff. Having said that, you are writing about. You're writing about several weeks, and you only had 85,000 words. So you did have to read out some off-cover stories.
Yeah.
There's a bunch. I guess we could say that some of the stories we left out. There are strictures about no alcohol in a Islamic country or Muslim country. I don't know about that. I think you don't have to do too much about that. The alcohol, all those stories happen after.
Right. Yeah. I can tell you firsthand, especially at my job, because we're one of the exceptional jobs, right? We can drink because we're spies. And as soon as they say, well, there's no alcohol there, and nobody does anything bad on this day of the week, that's nonsense. I asked the guy in Iraq one time, Colonel, and I'm like, hey, asking about Ramadan. And he's like, here's how I do Ramadan. Vodka, or no, whiskey. Do you want some? And the answer to that question has to be yes, right? Are you supposed to do that? Well, in the case of SF duties specifically, in their diplomatic role, for sure. And then, my job, obviously, by reg, I can drink. By reg, they give me alcohol. Can you believe that shit? But not all those stories, and it's not always my best moment, because when you get drunk and, you're a team, and someone's got to be drinking with this guy. Not always the best things happen.
Along those lines, Pete, from what I understand, one of the ways that some of those materials enter the war zone were through, those unofficial sources that you're very familiar with. But I don't know that. Yeah. I've heard rumors. There's a lot of really serious, obviously serious stuff there. There are some components. It's funny listening and working with Bob and Mark and Bob now for a while. Mark being the captain, Mark Nutsch, and Bob Pennington being his chief warrant officer. So basically, it's commander of the deputy. And they are, if you were going to draw up specifications on the perfect ODA commander, perfect captain, the textbook captain, the textbook warrant officer, these guys will fill the bill. Mark is, just detail-oriented, driven, let's get this done, very, perfect. And I'm sure that, in some cases, probably that can come off as being abrasive. Bob, on the other hand, is like you're easygoing. Yeah, we're going to get this mission done, and everybody is going to cooperate, and everybody's going to be doing a good job. He's so laid back. And watch them, and obviously I haven't watched them before, but I've watched them after the war. They're incredible. They're quite a team. You can understand why 10 other guys and an entire and thousands really of athletes follow these guys and right into literal hell. And, John.
Let's talk about Mike Spanford. If I'm not mistaken, he's one of the guys they lost on this.
That's still, Mike was one of the agencies and he played an important role with them really from the time they landed, and he did, and as did other members of the agency too. A lot of people that really won't get credit for a while just because of that engagement. Mike deserves a tremendous amount of credit because he played an important role in the war and making the alliances and making everything happen. And unfortunately, we're going into a lot of detail about it. And the very short version is there had been a number of Taliban prisoners taken, and we believe that actually was part of a plan from the Taliban to try to retake one of the key cities. And Mike was there in a prison where they were being held, and the prisoners were being briefed, and they started started an altercation. We think that it was a riot that was planned as part of to take over, to retake the city. And unfortunately, we lost his life. I can tell you, even though Mark, Bob, and everybody else on 505, they were not in position, they were far away. They were given a different assignment. To a man, they every day think about that and what they might have done, how horrible it was, how brave he'd been, and certainly was tremendous heroes, I'm sure, inside. Like I said, we go into a lot of detail. We go in the book and that, but there's a lot of men and women in the agency. Actually, in all the agencies, not just the one we're not talking about. But there are other agencies that, as you well know.
Yeah.
But and they, because of the nature of what they do, we can't find out their history. We can't see the great things that they do, the difference that they make, and occasionally you go into a place and see the stars in the wall, the names, and you know that there's a huge story there out loud. So you just have to take it on faith that brave Americans.
That brave American thing, it's pretty incredible. As a guy that's worked with Special Forces people and passing the Human Intelligence Collection, it's a number of things. One, I don't have a Green Beret. I don't have a trident. I'm just Pete, the guy that here. I'm like, hey, I promise I'm good at this, right? And then you stand in front of a murder board. And by the way, I forgot, a murder board is not a pleasant thing. They want to know what you know about things, and they're going to pepper you with questions until they decide if you're worthy to go out with them.
They don't actually murder you. Right?
Yeah,
but it's close.
Yeah. You might leave that room not on a team though, and so. In my case, I was always very fortunate because I was rugged enough, and when I talked about what I knew, there were never questions. I was very fortunate with that.
But just being modest.
Yeah, I am being modest.
They were actually asking.
My point here is just because you're in the CIA, you get attached to an ODA, or if you're in some other kind of agency, right? There can be other ones. You show up there, everybody's trying to figure out whose resume is what and what you're capable of. And you're like, "Hi, I'm Dirk. I played water polo. I didn't ride horses." And they have to decide how to put you to work. You have to be there, but that agency person needs their support to be able to move around. And there's not a problem with fear, but there is capacity in terms of tactical capability.
Well, there's got to be points of fear too. But but you're right, and you have to. The other thing is that you have to prove yourself every time, and you can't have a bad day.
Right.
Really, your bad day had better be better than most people's.
Yeah.
And then when you get reassigned, you got to prove it all over, and then you're getting to the point where, okay, old man, it's like, let's see if you still got your chops.
Yeah.
So I know a couple of guys like that. They still do have their chops, and they're proud and happy to show it to you.
Yeah.
But at some point, it does something.
How does a guy like Mike receive a mission from that team?
I think that I think they had such admiration for him because they without going too far into they were basically there before, so that so I think the guys on the ODA they had built-in respect for them, and they really, Mark's really relying on them for language skills to start with. Because there's not too many. They eventually get translators. Customs has somewhat limited. He has English, but very limited translators. They have huge admiration for the agency, and always talk very highly, and not just Mike. Again, it's not just what we talk about. And don't give full identity to someone. Certainly every single year. And one or two may give us a little bit of advice.
Yeah. I know from being there, sometimes you find yourself in a position where you're like, I can't believe we get to ride horses around Afghanistan and fight enemies. Like, you'd be tickled, you're terrified, you're working hard, you're exhausted. You all serving down here are allowed to go, holy shit, this is what happened.
Yeah, there's a point, actually, there is a point. And certainly you would expect that after the battle, there are those points after the battle. There's this one point where they had all been split up, and they come back together for preparation for what will end up being the final. It's not really the final battle, but it's the final, it's really a climactic battle, and it's huge. And they are so overjoyed, really, at seeing each other and coming back, because they had split. Who years are, and again, not to get too specific, but they're kind of trained to work in certain segments, and these guys went down to very small segments, and so they're kind of spread out, and in harm's way every second, and then they come back on the eve of this big battle, and they're not, because of the position of where they are and how they're getting supplies and everything, they're not in the kind of immediate danger that they had been. So it's not like they're back in New Jersey. They're still in the war zone. They're still close to the Taliban, but comparatively speaking, they just kind of let loose, and and it's kind of this wonderful feeling of nirvana and relief and everything that lasts for an hour, and it's back to war.
Back to war. Do these guys miss those days of riding free and fighting, or did they like more of the? I'm using the term fib. It's an SF term for what they normally do.
Yeah, I would say Well, I mean, it's a funny thing. You don't miss almost dying. You miss what you do miss are the people that you were close to, and the other thing that we don't talk about that much is the physical stuff that takes you out of you physically. I mean, if you look at Pennington, for instance, that war. He was also ODA 5x5 again goes to that, and has a lot of action. And Bob followed his service. Came out beat to the crap. His back was totally. We talked about that in the book. His back was totally beat up. He's only recently has been getting operations and promotion. So I don't think you miss the physical crap that you have to go through. You certainly don't miss. The constant stress changes your brain. I mean, and that, for some people, it's PTSD. For other people, it's still okay. Maybe it doesn't fit into this criteria, that criteria, but it's still difficult.
Yeah, of course.
It still screws you up. You don't miss that stuff. What you miss is, the fact that you trust that you have with the guy next to you. And in the case of, we call them the horse soldiers. In the case of 595, Bob, and a bunch of other guys have created a horse soldier program. And so they still work together. This is an award-winning group. And I'll give it a little plug. But even they're not paying me for this, but I have to say it's really good fun. And because of that company, because of their efforts, besides making the bourbon, they've also been together in close contact with each other. And I think that's very big, very positive. Positive aspect. That, and as I say, it's really good bourbon. So.
Horse Soldier Bourbon. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Speaking of things to plug, obviously the book, here it is, Swords of Lightning, and it's about ODA 595 and their incredible horse soldier tale from Afghanistan. The link is right there on the screen, and you can buy that on Amazon. Do that for sure. Also, if you want to support me in the Break It Down show, go to breakitdownshow.com. You can get yourself a Spy t-shirt or any kind of Break It Down show shirt. That's a great way to support us. Best way is PayPal link. Go in and put a little subscription. Make something. Email me, peter@breakitdownshow.com, and say, hey, I put $20 a month in. Could you do this? I'm probably going to say yes. So that's how you support me. All right, I'm going to get back to. There's so many questions I have about this because, this is an incredible time in the war. When these guys deploy, they deploy. No, let me ask you this. This is the question I'm asking. You write books about all kinds of different eras of combat, right? Ray Lambert and Henry Langrehr in World War II. You've written about, Pony Express, which is not war, but that's not easy. What is your sense across time? What is like the difference between, say, World War II guys and ODA SEAL team units?
Okay, not to take anything out, away from World War II guys, or actually any war that history I've done. If we count novels, basically from the Revolutionary War all the way up to not to take anything away from anybody, but I think certainly today's Green Berets, today's Army in general, and all the military, the level of professionalism. On average, the level of professionalism is just unprecedented, probably unprecedented in history. And certainly we expect that to be like the Green Berets. They're all, they've volunteered several times for all shows and come to watch. But even in units that you wouldn't consider elite units, still the level of training that you have, that you go through, is very, very high. When the Rangers World War II started, for instance, they trained with the best, they trained with commandos, and those incredibly brave young men, and they did a lot of training for 2 months. you know, when they went into combat. Today's Rangers, you know, and part of that is the fact that we're not in an immediate war.
Right.
Obviously, but today's Rangers spent 2 months. They're just getting started.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. So, you know, and it's not really fair to compare, you know, the one thing in World War II soldiers, although it happens with the two guys we're talking about, this doesn't apply, but a lot of the draftees in World War II have been somewhat more mature, somewhat older than your average inductee. Some of them, well, they're not draftees now, they're volunteers. So, you know, that does make a little bit of a difference. It does change things. That's a big difference. But overall, I would say today's Army, not only do we have women on the front lines, which we did not have in numbers ever before. I think half a pound, they're much. I'm not putting down the others.
Right.
I think they're much more better trained and more professional.
It is a more professional army in that, you know, people have a degree. All kinds of, also we can probably talk to for the book has a degree.
You know, absolutely. Well, and, you know, yeah, I'm not sure. I think, okay, most of the people on that ODA, if not everybody, have gone to college. And, yeah, I mean, the level of expertise, and again, you know, we are talking about 8 units of these, and say, well, we don't expect that to be, but it's true of pretty much across the board, the amount of education and then just, you know, just training and practice, and you know, obviously a lot of the tech now is so much better, but the situations that they're training in are so, in some cases, very, very realistic. A lot more realistic than we were able to do, even in World War II.
When you look at the scenarios that they have to prepare for, they go through some pretty specific training. See what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the other thing is I mean, defensive like the World War II guys, a guy like Ray Lambert was in combat for a very short amount of time before he was flattened by people planting.
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing I was going to say is, you know, in one of the plus sides of having been in the war on terrorism for so long is that we now have a huge cadre of you know, people who know what combat is, because that really, you cannot, as realistic as your training might be, it's not the same as when you're trying to kill them, and you really are truly dependent on the guy and the gal. And that was the one thing, you know, you take somebody like Ray Lambert, you know, Ray, when he starts in Africa, he's a little green. By the time he's wounded in Normandy, he's been through the biggest battles, you know, basically the biggest battles of the war up to that, certainly up to that point. So, you know, and he gets a hell of an education in 2 years. And, you know, there's really no substitute for that. That's how you learn to be the guy that
ODA 5.5. That's a long time ago. You know,
it's funny, you know. It is. It's like 20 years ago.
How are these guys holding up? How have they done? Are they still close?
Everybody's a different individual, and I cannot. I'm not even gonna. Yeah, I can't speak for any of them. From my observation, you know, they're all. You can tell why they were. You can tell why they were chosen to be Green Berets, why they chose to be Green Berets. You know, the best of the best. I think those qualities are still there. They haven't used the lessons but they are still, you know, they still all have relationships. I think if any one of them were to meet somebody and they would reach out and, you know, they would have support from meeting. And And that's not, that is not something we can take on. They're real guys. They have their ups and their downs. They have a successful bourbon business. They're pulling in more of them, more guys. But yeah, you can tell. I think that experience in the Army, as difficult as it was, the character was probably set before them, but it wasn't.
Yeah, the challenges of getting on to the next thing. It's a real challenge.
It's a tough thing. It's a tough transition. I'm just after the fact. Just observing. I'm sure they have their bad days.
What drives you to tell these stories? I mean, you tell a lot of different stories. You've written 50 plus books, but you were drawn to this for sure.
I was, because they had a really good story, and I was story of how I got involved. I was actually at a party, and someone that I respect, related to the Army, related to that community, came up and asked me to do them a favor, and some of these guys were kind of getting bulldozed by Hollywood, and so I kind of listened to them, and kind of give them advice that I didn't really expect them to go. But when I got to know them, and within a few minutes, and it has nothing to do with the bourbon, although I have to say that didn't hurt. But I just thought they had a really good story, and Mark had been trying to write a book for quite a while, and really, unfortunately, Mark is a great commander, great leader. He's not a writer, and when he said he couldn't do it, would I do it? I said I'd be in.
Typing horse soldier bourbon into that too. I wanted to ask you this. One of the big things is the perception of the idea of silent warriors. We have it in the counter-intelligence community. We certainly have it in Delta, Green Berets. It's kind of faded away on the SEAL side, though, or still remnants of it. How do you convince these guys? Look, we need to hear these stories. Sound professional, I get it, but come on.
Well, my thing is, we need to hear the stories because otherwise, are bad stories. And I remember, again, not to tell tales out of school, but I remember a conversation that I had. This is years ago with someone very high ranking. Say, well, we don't want to do this. We don't want to talk about this. We were in an easygoing atmosphere, to put it that way. And I said, General, be honest with you. We don't tell the story only the bullshit that's out. You guys are really, really willing to talk about the crap and the times that you screw up. And I understand that, but you had worked on something and spent a lot of time talking about an operation that screwed up. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool, but that was one mission, a little bit more than a day out of a few thousand.
Yeah.
It's like, so is that really what you want? History to know? And he said, we don't care. It's like basically like, shut up and drink.
Yeah.
It's like, but I mean that's how I feel. In this case, in this case, Hollywood really was, and other people were talking about their story, and Mark and Bob had no control over their story. And there's a lot more that has been made public and trying to keep even the story that they didn't even have. I wanted to help them get their side of the story out. But with the skills, what's happened with Chris, the thing that convinced Chris to actually do the work is that there were two guys that, and then another individual. We'll get into that one, but these two guys who basically were going to write about it and they had a lot of information, a lot of it wrong, but a lot of it, would have done damage, and and they were going to profit on it, and he had no say, no control, and I think that was one factor, one reason that he ended up deciding not to run. And if you could say Marcus well, maybe Order is responsible for doing it. And so people. I'm not saying that some SEALs there are maybe a few individuals that drag too much, but mostly they've been pushed out by command. It's not necessarily going out, and I realize there are some exceptions, but there are still a lot of silent professionals there. They get and in all the services, as you know, it's
yeah, people get upset with me when I use the word spot. I look at it from the other point of view. Like if someone grabs me, what are they going to think? They're going to be like, "Oh, that's just me." Well, I'm hoping they think that, but the reality is you're always what they think you, even if you're not that thing. And so the silent warrior thing, yeah, we have to learn to get better at this stuff. As professional as our force is, there's still a lot of flaws. There's a lot of mistakes that we make orienting to the area that we're in. It's really hard. Culture, as hard as we work at it, it's hard. We kind of misuse culture and everything else. You're writing books about incredible people that have done incredible things, hyper-overachievers, alphas. You must gather a lot of wisdom from these guys over there. I mean, Johnny is just a big ball of wisdom. You talk to him and you're like, oh my God. Because he has seen things that none of us, and lived the things. We think it's hard here. Oh my God.
I know.
So, what have you picked up wisdom-wise from this book, or just in general from these guys who you're talking to?
I don't know. And that's really the reason. One reason that's what you're talking about. I think that I would say one thing that I learned is sum it up. The human spirit is a lot more powerful and can endure a lot more than that we sometimes do. And it's not so much I think honestly, the one thing that if you talk to somebody like Henry Langrehr, especially, they will tell you, and Chris, Bob, and Mark, they'll tell you they're just regular guys. And they'll say, I was Ray was a farm boy, kind of just thrown into the war, became a medic because he had given baby shots to dogs. And but he was thrown into extraordinary circumstances and became extraordinary. And the same with that I would say is around and a good friend of mine I happen to be out with some stuff. I've been Castro on fighting. He's a blind man who's biked across America, competed in all sorts of running, competed all sorts of marathons onto the South Pole. He's done all this after having been wounded in war, and he's blind, and yet he has achieved more than certainly more than I have, more than most people have. And he does it every day, and he's just a quote-unquote regular guy. So he's able to tap into that extraordinary soul. And I think that we can all do that. Hopefully we can do that without having to.
Yeah. I was going to, one more time, bring up this book here. It's called Swords of Lightning. Look, if Jim writes it, it's awesome. He's written American Sniper, Codename Johnny Walker, he's written Ray Lambert's story, Henry Langrehr's story, all incredible. West Like Lightning. I'm just off the top of my head thinking these, and there's 50 more besides that. So whenever you see a Jim DeFelice book, you got to get it. You know it's going to be a great tale. He's so great at this. And I just wanted to thank you for coming on the show and doing this with me. By the way, I'll show you in a minute. We're in a hotel recording this, so it's a little bit noisy, but we'll get by.
Well, and thanks to you for coming down here and setting up in this somewhat chaotic.
Yeah, I'm just going to do this real quick so everybody can see. This is an active, we're actually in a hotel. And there's Jim again. Anything in closing?
No, thanks a lot for the opportunity. I hope people will get a chance to read Swords of Lightning. Even better, if we're going to be doing a whole bunch of events across the country over the next several months. I don't know that all of us will be present, but if you want to meet, and forget about me, the interesting guys really are Mark and Bob, and occasionally some other members of 595 will be there, and really go out and shake their hand and listen to some of their stories, because they are really incredible, and we'll be shaking hands with whichever member of the team that you're talking to.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.